Okay, great. Now, this portion of the video, what we're going to do is we're going to jump into a live BODi that's connected. Actually, it's connected to my lab. It has a WAN bonding connection currently. And I basically want to give you an overview of the web page. So let's jump in real quick, put our username, our password. Let's log in. And the first page that you're going to see is our dashboard. And you can see across the top, we have dashboard, we have a network link, an advanced link, a system link, and a status link. Now, what I'd like to do in the next 20 minutes, I just want to take you through the management pages. I want to take you through the web GUI. I want to show you how quickly and easily you can configure this box. So give me about 20 minutes of your attention, and then you'll have a real good picture of what this box is capable of. And not only that, you'll also have a pretty good picture of how you would configure the box if you needed to configure it for your particular application. Okay, so let's get started. I'm looking at the dashboard, and what do I see? At the dashboard, I see WAN connections and WAN connection statuses. So the green light tells me that I have an actual enabled link. You can see that some of my links are under priority. I have a high priority, priority 2, priority 3, and priority 4. Now the BODi supports manual priorities for each one of the WAN interfaces. And the BODi supports 7 WAN interfaces. Remember, we talked about 2 Ethernet interfaces, 4 USB interfaces, and 1 Wi-Fi. That's a Wi-Fi WAN interface. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. So right now you can see represented 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm missing one. And specifically because I don't have any modems connected to USB 1 interface. The moment that I plug a modem into the USB 1 interface, then that'll be populated right here on your dashboard. And you can configure directly from the dashboard. So you don't have to jump into network and advanced, although they're redundant links, like shortcuts. But you can jump right into these detail buttons, you see them, and you can configure your WAN interface. So let's do that real quick. Let me just give you a real quick idea of how quick and easy it is to configure a WAN interface, let's say that's connected to a cable modem. So I've got a cable modem connection here, and incidentally, you can write anything you want in here. You could type in BIOS. You could type in lease line. Or you might just want to say Comcast. So you get the idea. So when I'm looking at these WAN interfaces on the dashboard, I know exactly what WAN interface is connected where. It's just basically a way that we can put either the line number, the link number, whatever you want to put in there. So it's easy for your management. The connection methods support a dynamic, static, and a PPPoE. You can decide whether you want to run NAT. Right now I'm running NAT on this interface. My IP address is static, as you can see. I set that. Here's my subnet, and there's my default gateway. If I scroll down a little bit, you can see I've set up my DNS servers, and currently I have my standby state connected to Remain Connect. Now remember, this is in priority 1, so this is not a standby connection. We'll talk about standby connections a little bit later. Now, I want to point out the health check method here because it's instrumental in the BODi. The BODi supports, as I said, 7 WAN interfaces. And it supports reliability and survivability applications where you could take some links and you could put them in a standby state where they're not passing any data whatsoever. So you might have links like 3G or 4G links that have a threshold, a monthly threshold, maybe 4 gigs or something of that nature. Well, these 4 gig connections you might want to monitor or you might want to use as a backup connection. In this case, what you can do is you can set them to a lower priority. So let me bounce out of here real quick and I'll show you what I'm talking about. You see right here, I have priority 2. So I have a 3G connection right now that's not in use. Now, if I jump in here, you can tell that it's connected, but it's not in use. And I'm not passing any data on this, so I'm not paying for any of the bandwidth. So in that case, what I can do is I can determine whether I want to leave a link completely on all the time, or I can set it into a standby state. Now, the health check is related directly to where my standby state is active or not active. Because what I can do is I can constantly monitor each one of my links. And I can monitor my links in a myriad of ways. I can set up a ping, I can set up a DNS lookup, or I can do a web page. And in this case, I'm constantly looking at certain timeout intervals, whether this link is active and whether it's healthy. The moment that this fails, then my standby connections will come online. That way I can determine exactly what the intervals are, how many check retries they are, and how many recovery tries. So I'm completely in control of my standby links. The dynamic DNS support is pretty deep. You can see that I've got DNS, no IP org. So you can set it up in the case where you might be having a DHCP IP address and it could be changing on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis. You can use DNS and that will support it. We have bandwidth allowance monitors, so I can get email notifications when my link starts to become saturated. I can set my port speeds for my Ethernet interfaces. I can set my NTU, MSS, and you can see right here, I can clone my MAC address for ISPs that are specific about which MAC address they can connect to. Each one of my WAN interfaces also supports a VLAN. So I can set up VLANs for the WAN interfaces if that's needed. So you get an idea of how quickly and easy you can set up your WAN interfaces. Now also I want to show you that we have drag and drop capabilities. So I can move my USB interfaces at will from one priority to the next just by slide, drag, and drop. So you can see how intuitive and easy that is to get around, right? Now you can also see that I can also disable or move my links into disable. Right now I don't have anything connected to WAN 2, and right now I don't have my YWAN on. But if I wanted to turn my YWAN on, it would be as easy as just sliding the link up into a higher priority. And once I do that, that particular YWAN interface is ready and active for me to get in and configure. Now, if I move down, you can see that I have representation of what my LAN and IP address is. So I got a 4-port switch on the BODi 004 and 007. And this is the IP address, 192.168.50.1. Below that, I have my Wi-Fi or my access point settings. Now, I don't want you to confuse the two because you got a Wi-Fi WAN connection and you got a Wi-Fi access point connection. Now, the access point is for all your users to connect. So you're on your laptop, you can connect directly to the BODi. The YWAN is a WAN interface, like a backhaul, a wireless backhaul. So this would be easy for you to connect to another access point or connect to an existing mesh. That way you could use that particular YWAN interface and balance it or bond it. So you can use that YWAN interface just like you would use your Ethernet interfaces or any of your 3G or 4G interfaces. Okay, scrolling down, it also shows me that I have a WAN bonding link that's connected right now. And you can see that it says it's established. And if I go into the status of that particular WAN bond, I get an idea of what I'm connected to. And I also can look immediately at the health of the particular link and which modems are passing data. Now remember, I have my USB 3G connection is in standby, and my USB 4 is in standby. And you notice they're not passing any data whatsoever. They're connected, they're live, they're active, but there's no data. So therefore, I'm not getting charged. So you get an idea. Back to our dashboard. Okay, so you can see all the jumping points that you can do with the dashboard. See how intuitive it is. See how quickly and easily you can just go in and connect and configure your WAN interfaces. Also, I want you to look on the front page. You can see what model it is. You can see your firmware, what you're loaded for your support guys. If you're having a question or if you have any problems that you're encountering, you talk to our support teams. You can tell them immediately, where's the firmware? Firmware's loaded on the dashboard. Here's your uptime. This tells you how long the actual box has been up. It can tell you the CPU load and also the throughput. How much throughput are you passing through this box at one time? You got your uplink and you got your downlink. All right there on the front page. Easy, right? Okay, so let's move on. We're going to jump into the network now. We jump into the network link, and this right here are my LAN settings. And I could go in and I could set what network I want my LAN on, what subnet, speeds for my Ethernet, whether I want to enable or disable my drop-in mode. And I'm going to come back to the drop-in mode, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And you're going to see coming out from our support team and our Patent Academy is that we're going to start posting some videos on how to set up drop-in mode, how to do WAN bonding, how to do any of the balancing outbound policies. So we're gonna basically start feeding you all this technical collateral that's going to help you and enable you to set these boxes up really quickly. You might find that you don't really need a lot of help because it's pretty intuitive. You jump in here, it's just like using a Windows box. You know exactly what to do, how to enable it. And if you put this in front of any type of a Cisco associate or any type of associate networking professional, they're going to be able to configure this box very quickly, very easily. Okay, so here's my DHCP settings. You can see my IP range, my subnet mask, my lease time. This is where I set my DNS servers, whether I want to assign them automatically or not. And then I have extended DHCP options. So I want to show you that real quick. You can see how much support we have for DHCP. Now this will help you with your IP phones, with your PBXs, your IPBXs. We support time servers, log servers, DNS domains, and you get the idea. And you can see how extensive it is. You can also set in your options and your values right here in this window. Okay, whoops. So you get an idea. This is where you can set your static DHCP reservations. We support that. And this is also where you can set up your static routes. Because remember, you can have up to 7 WAN interfaces. So you might want to send some traffic, specifically routable traffic, in certain directions for certain networks. And we're going to get into outbound policies too. So right here basically is your typical LAN connections, LAN settings, pretty easy to use, right? Now this is your access point. The BODi supports up to 16 simultaneous SSIDs. So I can add an SSID pretty quickly. This is where I do that. This is your, whether you want to enable this particular SSID, you can broadcast or decide not to broadcast. You can see that I have multicast filters, multicast rates, and my security, I support WPA, WPA2 personal, and both enterprise. And we also support static web. Your access control right here, you can decide whether you want to deny all that's listed or you accept all, so you can enable that. And this is for each specific SSID that you connect. And now your WAN interfaces, this is very similar to where we were from the dashboard, the jump off point. And you notice it just pulls me right back into a dashboard scenario. So right in here, I can decide exactly how I want to configure each one of my links. I still have drag and drop capabilities. You see that? Cool, huh? And I just disabled that particular modem. And I can also enable IPv6 or disable it. Okay, good. So let's move on. Let's go into the advanced link. In the advanced link, these are my physical settings for my Wi-Fi. And this is the support. And I'm not going to get too deep and technical with this right now because I want to get into WAN bonding and I want to talk about the outbound policies, and I'm afraid that I'm going to run out of time. I asked for 20 minutes, so I'm going to try to keep it to 20 minutes. So I really kind of have 5 minutes left, and I can see that I got a little bit more I want to cover. So I might go over a little, so if you can forgive me for that, I appreciate it. All right, let's jump into a WAN bonding connection. You can see right now that I have a WAN bonded connection. Now, a WAN bonded connection is where I'm going to take multiple WAN interfaces and I'm going to combine them into what we call a fat pipe. So if I jump into this profile, I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. What these are is these are separate bonded connections or VPN connections to one particular IP address. And what we're doing is we're bonding these interfaces together. So I have an intelligence in how I'm distributing the packets over the WAN links. Now you can see right now that I have a WAN bonding profile and a connection priority that's related to all one of my 7 interfaces. And in this case, I'm only using my 3G modems, and I have all my 3G modems set to the highest. Now, I want to be clear. These don't have to be going through the same ISP. They can go through multiple ISPs because there's intelligence on both sides of the peers. Okay? In this case, I'm talking about this particular unit as though it's a remote unit or like a mobile unit. Even if it's the reason why I'm calling it a remote unit because I have this connected to one of my BODi 1000s. And we're going to have a webinar about the BODi 1000 and start talking about all the features and how feature rich that is. But one point that you need to know about the BODi 1000 is it's capable of handling multiple bonds. Not VPN connections, but bonds. Now this is one bond that I have connected. This is a bonding profile. And the way that I set this bonding profile up is simply by putting the global IP address here and the remote ID. That's how quickly and easily I set this bond up. So I name my bond, I activate it, I decide whether I want to encrypt that bond or not. I put in the remote ID, and incidentally, I'll show you where that's found on this particular, in the GUI interface. And then I decide whether I want a pre-shared key or not. In this case, I don't have a pre-shared key. I put the IP address of my head-end or my peer. And then I decide directly what WAN interfaces are going to be in my bond. You see how quickly and easily I did that, right? Once I do that, I save and I activate. So I click back into my dashboard. And you remember this. I'll pull up the status of my bond, and you can see right now there's a little bit of data going over here. But I'm going to show you a little bit later how we can force some data. We're going to actually create or generate packets so I can give you an idea of what that looks like. Okay? Cool, huh? I'm sure there's questions about this. And like I said, I'm going to do a separate video on WAN bonding, and I'm going to break down WAN bonding for you so you know exactly what your features are. You need exactly what your requirements are for a WAN bond. And then you get an idea of exactly what kind of throughput that you're going to get in your WAN bonds. Okay, we support IPsec VPN. And again, I'm going to kind of rush through here. I'll just set up a new profile so you can see the kind of support we have. We support triple DES, AES, 256, and you can get a real clear idea of our support for IPsec. We support, currently we've interrupt with Cisco, we interrupt with Juniper routers. We can provide sample configurations if you need them. And again, these are one point-to-point connections through one WAN interface to another WAN interface. But you can we support multiple VPN connections on this particular box. Now I want to get into a little bit of the outbound policies because remember we talked about this earlier. And I want to show you how quickly and easily we could set up an outbound policy. Here's a weighted policy that we're going to connect. So we'll just call this test 1. And I'm going to enable that. And I can decide whether I'm going to pass any traffic, IP network, or IP address, or MAC address. So I can set up a weighted policy just for one. Let's say it's the boss, and I want to make sure that all his traffic is prioritized or enforced to go out exactly the way I want it to go out. I could set that up for a network. I could set it up for any IP address, and I could go to any IP address, and then I could say, okay, all TCP traffic. Or I can say, maybe I just want web traffic or secure web traffic. You get an idea of how quickly and easily I could do this. Now look at this. When I decided I'm going to do a weighted balance connection, you can see right now how easy I can set the weights. Could it be easier than this, I wonder? So I can decide exactly how I want to set my weight. How quickly and easily it is to set up a weighted balance connection. No CLI, easy from the GUI, save and apply. Right? Let me show you a couple others. Let's drop down another algorithm that we might want to use. Now, I may have a bonded connection, and I may have premium services that I want to give to anybody who's surfing the web that's coming from this particular IP address or this particular network. So I could say 192.168.50.0. So everybody on this network, specifically going anywhere that's going to be passing TCP, WAN traffic, is going to go out my bonded connection. Got that? So see my choices? I've got not only 7 WAN interfaces I can choose from, I've got 8 now because I can choose my bond. Now everybody surfing the web is going to get this high priority. If I decide I don't want to do it by network, or if I want to do it by MAC address, I could do that too. So you get an idea quickly and easily. And incidentally, I can stack these particular algorithms on top of each other. So these outbound policies can be stacked and they can be adjusted as a hierarchy. I can slide them back and forth. I support enforced. We talked about some of these earlier, like I said. I can prioritize, and this is, again, a drag and drop, where I can tell you whether it's not in use. Whoops. I can set and move these from highest priority to lowest priority. Very easy, point and click. I can set up an overflow where I could say cable modems first, then I want it to go to USB 2, then I want it to go to my YWAN, or I might want to go to my YWAN here. And again, incidentally, any, and go from one IP address, one MAC address, or a network. Okay, very cool, huh? Let's see, I'm over by a couple minutes. I can also use least used, so I can look at all my WAN links and say this WAN link is not being used, and I can start to prioritize all my traffic out that particular link. I can also use lowest latency, so if I'm looking at RTP traffic, video traffic, I might want to preserve all my traffic that's going out for RTP or for voice or something of that nature. I can create a lowest latency. So you get an idea quickly, easily. I can set up these outbound policies. We support port forwarding. So in obvious NAT environments where you need to port forward, you can enable, disable. I also want to point out something, is I want to point out our QoS. We can, by default, the BODi has set up a staff, a guest, and a management user. Okay? And you can decide exactly how you want to identify those particular clients. So you can say in this particular subnet, I'll have my managers. In this particular subnet, I can have my staff, or I can have my guest. Now what that does is that it allows you to apply filters rules and access policies directly to those particular groups. So you can have your guests, you can have your staffs, and you can have your management. And you can see in this page right here, what I've done is I've decided to create bandwidth limitations on my staff. So they can only move so much traffic at one time. So anybody who connects, they're only getting this much traffic. Now, if I decide I don't want to do that, I can disable that. Now there's no bandwidth limitations. I can also go into applications, and you can see I can prioritize in the queue the traffic. So all supported voice protocols are going to be supported, and they're going to be queued at a higher level than it would be for all my file sharing. So my file sharing I could lowered, and my voice I've enabled. We also have DSL cable optimization. Basically, this is enable, disable. It's an algorithm that runs behind the scenes, and it actually will allow for the fact that a lot of times your DSL connections are asymmetrical. And because they're asymmetrical, you'll have higher download speeds than your upload speeds. This, you can set your higher download speeds and your upload speeds so you can match exactly how your WAN interfaces are being utilized and being used. Now, the whole idea behind this box is it's easy to brute force a network and add all this bandwidth, right? You can add cable modems, you can add a FiOS, and these are inexpensive links that are giving you tons of bandwidth. But if you add these links to a network and you don't add the element of intelligence and somehow manage those links, you're really not going to help yourself. So this enables you to really support multiple links on a network, to eliminate the high-speed links like the lease line links that they're high dollar links, and start bringing in lower dollar links and managing them more intelligently. All right, cool. The BODi supports a BPTP server. It supports service forwarding. It supports VPN pass-throughs. So anytime you have VPNs behind your link, you can set up pass-through rules. Again, I know I've gone over a little bit, so it looks like it's going to be a 30-minute video. But I want to show you a couple more things. And real quickly, I'm going to take you through. So here's your admin security, where you change your username, password. You can have read-only settings, where you can have read-only users that are logged in and monitoring. You can have this is your timeout for your management page. We support SSH. You can access it from the LAN or the WAN. You can decide exactly how you want to access it. You can also enable which IP addresses have management links available or not available. This is where you can download firmware from our website, and you can load new firmware. You can test out test builds. You can also put the latest release software on your unit. We support 2 partitions, so you can have 2 pieces of code that are loaded at the same time. So let's say you want to take a test build and you want to try some things out. You can move back and forth between those partitions. We support a time server, email notification, syslogging. We support SNMP, SNMP version 1, 2, and 3. This is where you can import or export your configuration or restore your factory config. This is where you can soft boot the box, and you can see, incidentally, here's 2 pieces of software, my partitions. You can ping directly from the box and directly from a specific WAN interface that's active. And you can do the same with the trace route. And you can also do site analysis. Now, this is a very cool page, and I want to take a minute to show you this. Let me bounce back into the dashboard real quick, and let's activate our other modem. Let's bring those links up. Okay, and you notice that my WAN bond never went down. Did you notice that? Even though I was adding from a standby or adding from a disconnected modem, my WAN bond is always connected. Now, this is a connection that I have with a head-end unit, as I mentioned before, or a peer, another 007, another 004. And all my traffic is being combined. So all my USB traffic is all being combined into a fat pipe. So I'm taking multiple 3G modems, prepaid SIMs, things of that nature. Very inexpensive. I know I have a little bit of a threshold on how much traffic I can move, but I can bond these links together. And this adds this element of mobile or portable element into the BODi, especially the 004. If you want to put this into a vehicle, you want to put it into a train. And of course, I mentioned that before. But I want to show you this real quick. And I'm going to open one more page so I can show you the graphs. And I'm going to use one page to create a test, and I'm going to use one page to show you the graphs. But I want to show you the real-time bandwidth controls. And I know I'm not covering everything, so I know I'll have to create another webinar for you guys. But I do want to try to stay close to my time limits, and I'm running over right now. But I want to show you that I'm monitoring these links. And right now I'm in the web GUI on my public link. So this is my leased line connection. My cable modem is really a leased line connection. I just labeled cable modem so you get an idea. But you see how these links are dormant, right? So let's run a test. Let's jump into system. And let's go into WAN bond testing. And let's run a quick 60-minute test. 60 seconds, sorry. Test on TCP download. And let's see what kind of bandwidth we're getting. Okay, here we go. You can see my bandwidth is climbing. Let's go in here. Whoa, see that? And you see my cable modem's not passing that data, but my 3G is. And look, my 3Gs are combining. Look, see 600K, 600K right here, and then 500K. So I'm taking my 3G modems and I'm combining them, and I'm almost getting 2 megs. I just got 2 meg download from 3G technology. Pretty slick, huh? Let's try uplink. Let's see if it's still rolling. And you get an idea of exactly how much traffic I'm passing. Now, it's important for me to state something here. When we're passing TCP traffic, what we're doing is we're looking at the window size between the two BODi boxes, because we're setting up a window size and we're looking at 2 factors. We're looking at the error rates and we're also looking at the latency. And that's how I'm determining what my packet distribution is, whether I decide whether I'm going to send packets down this link or that link. So I've got 3 links right now that I can decide I can send my packets. Well, each one of my links I'm monitoring and I'm looking at. And I'm trying to determine whether I have errors. Because 3G, you guys know, if anybody who's been dealing with passing critical data over 3G networks, and we've been doing that for the last 3 to 4 years, they know how difficult it is to rely on 3G connections. They're erratic, they change very suddenly, and bonding is absolutely necessary for mission critical type of environments. And the BODi is perfect for mission critical. So you can see that because I can bond and I can also create standby links that are with other ISPs. Okay, I'm at 34 minutes, so you guys will have to forgive me. So you get an idea of what it can do. One more point that I want to make is that you can also do UDP testing too, and you can determine what your bandwidth is. Let's see if I could do real quick. Let's see if I can get 2 megs upload. That might be a little too much. Huh? Oops. Sorry about that. Okay, let's try 1 meg. Remember, this is UDP traffic, so this is connectionless. If I lose it, I'll lose it. Let's see what we get here. And remember, this is uplink too. See what kind of spikes we get here. Okay, you see 3G. USB 4 is outperforming these two. Now these are dissimilar networks, by the way. This is a Sprint. That's a Verizon modem. And you see how I'm bursting a little bit more here? But I can also go back inside and say, hey, what's my loss? No packet loss. Okay, 1%. This is pretty good for 1 megs, guys. This is a link that I could count on. And I'm sending consistently upload 1 meg. So if this were video, this would be great looking video. From a mobile connection that's driving down the road, you can see exactly where I'm going. If it were voice, it'd be voice that we could count on. It's consistent. We're not looking for any loss. We don't want any loss. And that's 1 meg. So uplink speeds with 3G and 4G are a little bit more tricky, obviously, than they are with the download, because the network's designed to download traffic, not necessarily upload traffic. And again, this is the reason why you need bonding in critical mission environments. So we're going to talk about applications in other webinars, and we're going to talk more about the BODi, but I just want to give you an overview. I hope you had a great time. I really thank you for your attention. I know I ran over a little bit, but hopefully you'll forgive me. And if you have any questions, please pass them directly to support@patent.com. And my support guys will get with you, or I'll get with you personally. Anything that you have in mind, any questions that I've left open, I'm sure there are some questions that are left open, please get back to me and get back to us, and we'll help you in any way we can. Thank you very much.